Hi guys, Ben here.
And Anna.
Yeah, why are we here? This is where I edit videos. And I sat down to edit Steins Gate and put in our SD card, and one of the worst possible things that could happen to a reaction channel has again happened to us. It's happened once or twice before.
Once or twice before.
SD card error. Every video on the SD card is corrupted. It sucks. What was on that SD card? All of Steins Gate's reaction and discussion, as well as a My Hero Academia reaction and discussion. We downloaded and bought some software to try to salvage and recover anything we could. And
some good news.
Yeah, some good news. Other than salvaging like video clips from over a year ago that mean nothing.
We do not need.
Yeah, we managed to get some of what we recorded this past week, and I guess it's lucky, right? It's kind of the best case scenario. We recovered a bit of the Steins Gate portion of the reaction. We recovered all of the intro and about like the first 14 minutes of the episode, not edited down yet, just, watching it. And we also have the audio of all of our discussion. So what we're gonna do is edit that portion we have and upload it like normal, and then tack on the discussion portion with like a still of some art we'd had made of us, and at a portion in the discussion we get some video back.
Yeah, there's gonna be a random clip of us actually, and we're probably gonna be talking about Royal Farms for some reason unknown.
Yeah. So that's what we're gonna do in regards to this Steins Gate upload, but
more like a podcast than ever before.
Yeah. If I'm honest, I still feel really bad, and I know that we did everything normally, and it was out of our control to some extent, but I still feel bad. So we're going to do two things going forward into the future. Number one, we're going to have a backup camera installed in the room. It's just going to be a webcam, not great quality, but it's better than nothing. Yeah, Blind Wave did something similar with like a security camera the other week that inspired us. And then the second thing we're going to do is this coming week, instead of just one Steins Gate upload, we're going to do two. We're going to fit it in somewhere in the middle of the week. Probably Wednesday, depending on our schedule. And then 2 weeks from now, when this episode comes out on YouTube, we're going to group it together with the next so that the upload is a little bit longer in length. It's kind of weird if we upload something under like 20 minutes, I don't know how long this is going to be yet. But yeah, just filling you in. Sorry about this.
Sorry.
Yeah, but we love you. And also, if you're still watching this, Q&A in the future? Thoughts? Yeah? Maybe? Yeah?
Maybe.
All right. Enjoy.
Yeah, sweet.
Hi, I'm Anna.
And I'm Ben.
We're AutoSave. Welcome to our channel.
Today we're watching Steins Gate Season 1, Episode 8. I'm excited. I'm really excited. I've been waiting for this episode. I need to see how we react to being told that we could be the Messiah,
Enough said. That's literally, I need to know what comes of that.
And how true freedom could lie beyond the future that Kyoba's bringing or could bring. I love him as a character, as a main character, and I need to know how one like him would process this type of information. Mm-hmm. Is he gonna use delusion and grand statements to make it more comedic and digestible, or is he going to go have a panic attack and be like, all right, I'm done, shut everything down?
I mean, that's a little bit closer. I mean, he's already struggling with realizing the actual gravity of that which he is experimenting and messing with.
He doesn't want any of his friends to be hurt or affected by it, and I can't imagine that that this would take a step to make his mind at ease. I think that he's still probably going to be anxious over Mayuri and the gang. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Not sure.
Not sure.
You ready?
Yes.
Sweet. The music's so good too. There's the thinker. Mm-hmm. Chaos theory, homeostasis. All right. Does Ruka still feel bad?
I think so. Are we gonna test it again with the lottery?
Oh. Hmm.
私の人生はたかだか18年だけど、改変なんかしたくない。失敗したことも含めて。実験は大好き。好きで悪いか。すなわち自分は高みの見物を決め、他人を犠牲にして北総。
Passive observer.
実にマッドサイエンティストだった。もういい。
Is Moeka just like hanging out with them and we haven't seen her yet?
Subject, I'm a lab member.
See? Look. Moeka standing in the dark in front of people is a little unnerving.
And sending them messages instead of alerting them to your presence.
It looked like her phone brightness was all the way down too, to stay hidden. Good landing.
Interesting framing.
Right? Oh my god. The whole family. Alright, Moeka, what you got?
Okay.
It's purple. No.
Aww.
Rook is
Melons
here.
are
Lab
very
member.
appalled.
Lab member. Lab member. What a nice, strange little interaction.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god.
She never became a member.
And last time. That's insane. It's a lot of information to process.
In this path,
Butterfly effect's real, right? Yeah. Cute is justice.
it's my new catchphrase.
Okay, that was Steins Gate, Season 1, Episode 8. What changed? What is it?
But what?
What do you think?
By how they reacted to him staring at Ruka, you would think that that would be evidence that it did work.
But it could just be Kurisu not knowing yet. that
Exactly.
Ruka- yeah.
No one has told, and obviously Ruka's already very shy and blushy.
Yeah.
So automatically someone staring at Ruka would cause them to blush.
Also, they are wearing the same thing as they were once they first arrived, so that doesn't really give us any hints either.
Right, and there was the fact that we had to explain to Kurisu that Ruka is in fact a boy.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you're right to say that it's possible that Kurisu doesn't know that in this world line.
This could be like just a point that they're making, that any change, as small or insignificant as it may seem, which results in a world that's basically identical, is still enough to change world lines. Like, it's just an infinite number of, or worlds.
And unfortunately, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to change what you were hoping to change.
Exactly.
Like, obviously here, he was probably thinking, what's the harm in telling Ruka's mom to eat more vegetables? Even if Ruka is still born a boy, Ruka's mom had more vegetables. Yay. Okay, that's not actually going to hurt anything.
Yeah.
So what did it change?
I don't
know.
know.
This is a different world line. So what could telling someone to eat more vegetables on their pager do?
At first I was like, okay, maybe it didn't 100% work the way it was intended because they changed the actual lettering because it couldn't fit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like, eat more veggies, right?
And who was the text coming from? If
Exactly.
you got a text from on your pager, I don't even know how pagers work. Did it say like who was sending the message?
Yeah. But I didn't even know, like, obviously it's not possible to, but like that a phone like that, like a cell phone, could connect to a pager. But if that's the case and that's what we're going with, then I don't know. Like, if I got a text that said eat more veggies and I never gave my number to anybody and spam calls didn't exist, I might change my number. I might be like, well, somebody has this or somebody has the wrong number. I'm going to ignore it. Like, just because somebody texts me, eat more veggies for a healthy kid, I'm not just going to, like, do it. I'm not going to believe it.
I'd be like, how do you know I'm pregnant?
Yeah.
Like, what the hell? This
I don't
is
know.
creepy.
Interesting. Do you like the name that we have for this ability? The Magic Eye, the Reading Steiner?
I'm just going to call it the magic eye.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You don't like the Reading Steiner?
No, I agree with Kurisu. It's
No.
rather embarrassing to say, so I'm just going to say magic eye.
There was such an emphasis earlier in the episode on, from Kurisu on Akiyama about the idea of just him keeping,
Being the keeper of seeing all of these memories and these worlds.
Yeah.
Kurisu I had written down Karisu's kind of beliefs on this whole thing and why Karisu doesn't want to send a D-mail herself. It's unfair to change the past. She's lived for like 18 years and it's all a part of her life, even the mistakes.
Yeah.
And I find that kind of dialogue piece and her opinions on it matched in this episode with how Ruka feels and what Ruka wanted to change. Ruka wanted to change a very big thing.
Yeah.
In terms of like a physical way and how Ruka views himself. And so it's very interesting to have those two opinions and wants in the same episode.
Yeah.
Because it's very, very different than, Kiyoma was like, I'm gonna try to win the lottery. And then Moeka wanted to say she didn't to not get a new cell phone. And it's kind of like the asks are almost amping up, possibly, also.
Yeah. I also don't like the time that's given to us that is like framed at the second after they press send has been different each time as well. And I don't really understand if that holds any significance because it doesn't seem to, you know? It just seems to be different intervals of like seconds of when they press it. But I have them all written down just in case.
Just in case at the end there's a test and they're like, okay, which episode did you get this code in?
You know what? I would not have done another test until I learned exactly what has happened with Moeka.
Right, you haven't even met up with Moeka to like talk to her and convinced her to be a lab member again. It is interesting too, and I think why he so readily jumped into doing a new experiment was probably both because obviously he really cares for Ruka and wants to make Ruka feel better and feel happy, but also I don't think he thought it would actually switch world lines.
They all were like, oh, well,
this isn't actually... I mean, even him and Daru were having like a little...
And then
Karisu walked behind and they're all like, yeah, this as a scientist.
Yeah.
So, I get you. Like, I don't think I would have switched world lines unless I had figured out exactly what was going on with Moeka and maybe even talk to Moeka myself first before, or even let a day pass before trying again.
I was wondering if they were going to go like down the route of, the whole watermelon interaction never happened at all. But I find it much more fascinating that it was going to happen, but the timing was off so that she just overheard and eavesdropped through the door. It's insane.
I really like that. Because obviously, at the time that Ruka came in, they weren't talking about, originally with the watermelon, they weren't talking about the things they were at the time that she waited at the door. And I, as a fellow eavesdropper, I definitely would have listened in if someone was talking about world lines changing, and...
I would have immediately turned around and been like, la, 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 la,
yeah,
like,
you know? I'm not hearing anything. I don't think I would get involved.
If you were that close with them, you probably would.
Maybe. I mean, if I knew someone had the ability to time travel, I probably would be somewhat of an observer, kind of like Kurisu. Like, Kurisu's like just there, you know, and wanting to know about how it's going, but not actually getting like really involved in it.
Yeah.
Because I do see the possibility of all the major consequences that could happen from it. I also kind of agree with what Kurisu was saying about her own life and how she wouldn't want to change anything or choose to change anything about who she is and who she came to be from what happened to her throughout her life. And I kind of feel that too. I think the easiest thing I would have agreed with were those, I mean, yeah, okay, maybe I would have tried the lottery thing as for fun. Like, if I was in the room and I didn't know that this really worked, I'd be like, yeah, sure, send the lottery numbers. But I probably wouldn't have been involved after that. Because I'd been like, I'm just going to watch, I'm just going to listen.
I feel like I would have done a very similar thing to Kiyoma, being like, okay, lottery, yes. Not the first prize, not the second, not the third. Like, let's get, like, a reasonable, like, you know.
Yeah. That was smart on his end.
I liked it. I love Kiyoma as a main character.
Very awesome main character. Didn't react. I feel like the reaction that we were kind of wondering about before we started this episode It ended up almost being like a mix of kind of what I was thinking it could be. There was almost like this acting, this laughing, and almost this acceptance at the same time, but kind of like I can't believe this is really happening.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous.
Yeah. I love the line, cute is justice.
Yes, that is my new catchphrase.
Yeah.
Cute is justice. I feel like Sailor Moon said those words.
I also love that when Mayuri was getting a call, like she knew exactly what it was, and what she knew it was not the case, but it didn't matter. She already jumped into action and changed Ruka's clothes for them. That's awesome. Loved it.
And then obviously the best part is the first time that in a long time that we've seen kind of Kiyoma go into that whole act and delusion with the cell phone, which we haven't really seen in a little bit.
It's been on and off.
It's been on and off, but I feel like it was a really nice touch to get that upon him being like, oh my god, like in reaction to seeing Ruka in the cosplay and trying to cover up however he might have been feeling.
Yeah. So I had a couple questions for you. Do you think Moeka is going to come back in the way that she was when she left going forward in the series? I mean, like, do you think that she's going to be, like, accepted in again as another lab member? Do you think she's going to be as, like, you know, integral to the story, or that her cell phone changing would affect anything?
So that's a really good question. I doubt just changing the cell phone would have completely changed Moeka's desire to have the IBN 500, you know, herself, or to borrow it. But I do still find kind of question marks in my head of trying to figure out why, even for 4 days, Moeka wouldn't have come to the lab because of the cell phone change.
Yeah.
What kept her from coming after that?
I'm not sure. Like, it seemed like she lost... Like, she was busy, preoccupied, and potentially even lost a little bit of interest for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Why? Yeah, exactly. That's why we should have met up with Moeka and figured out why she didn't come to the lab
she'll text
for 4 days,
next
even
episode.
she didn't get a new cell phone.
Okay. Other question. Why did we get the reminder and the emphasis of why Suzuha still is anxious and reactionary towards Kurisu? Why
do we get it?
Yeah, because we know it, right?
Yeah.
But it happened again. Is that to remind us, to further remind us to be like, okay, let's look out and pay attention to what Kurisu's real thoughts are right now, and let's okay, she feels weird about changing anything in her past, yet I don't think she loves the idea of her not being in control and losing that memory in between world lines, you know?
I felt like that scene was having a conversation with the scene at night in the park where Kurisu was saying that she didn't want to change the past and use the email. I felt like that reaction from Suzuha and getting almost that reminder of that right after hearing this kind of really confident, I'm not going to be using it for myself or my own life.
Yeah.
I think they were in conversation with each other, and it definitely opens up questions like, what would be the game changer for Kurisu to end up to want to send a D-mail herself? Is her deciding she wants to send a D-mail the whole issue? The whole thing that Suzuha is actually worried about?
Maybe.
Is whatever she would send to the past and whatever world line that could take you to the one that is bad?
That is a really good point to touch on, because they do have this, you do have this thought, okay, we kind of skipped over Kurisu, but if they were to change one thing about themselves, what would it be? Would it be connecting to her father that we've had, be alluded to?
I think that those scenes were completely in conversation with each other, and I think we might have gotten our answer to what Kurisu could do that would end up spelling whatever Suzuha's disaster is, whatever Suzuha's wary of Kurisu for. I, at the time, thought maybe it needed to be something specifically horrible, but I think maybe since we've gotten this example at the very end of this episode, that you can try to change something and it doesn't change that thing, but it can still switch world lines, is maybe what I should be believing could happen if Kurisu sends D-mail.
Yeah. Huh.
That it doesn't necessarily matter the content of which and the time that she is trying to send it to. What matters is the domino effect after that and whatever changes that wasn't accounted for.
Interesting. Why didn't Daru's text work?
That's a good question.
Like, did it work and go through, but he still lost? Or did it just not work?
I don't know, because they kind of were saying that he should have won. I think Kurisu even said that he should have won if it had worked.
Yeah.
But
I don't know.
I don't really know how these Ferris Cups work, and if there's any cheating involved in terms of making sure that Daru doesn't win, even if he could.
Yeah. Telling the position of the cards so you could win the Ferris Cup.
Maybe it's just maybe it's a rigged game and it's impossible to win the Ferris Cup.
Maybe. Was there any difference this time in between things? Like obviously...
No, there wasn't even a change of world lines.
Yeah, and there wasn't, like, any, number or anything that popped up on screen. That's very odd to me.
It's really cool that we're getting examples in this episode of how sending a D-mail can either change that thing that you're directly trying to influence, not change anything, or change something and you don't even know what it is.
Yeah.
And it's almost like those are the three scenarios.
Yeah.
And that unknowingness of sending that text message into the past is kind of really, like, freaky.
Yeah, it is. I lost immediately. Interesting. Okay, my last little question for you that I have. If you could send, like, in the time span of, like, 5 days, think small scale, and you had the capabilities that we're seeing right now, what would you test it out on? What would you try to change in your own life? Like, for me, I am gonna not think about any of the potential repercussions, but something that I think it would help is, like, if I went to Royal Farms to get a Dr. Pepper, but I went in there and they didn't have Dr. Pepper. All they had was, like, root beer or, like, Mr. Pibb or, like, Sprite, And then I'm like, shit, I'm not going to buy any of this trash. I need a Dr. Pepper. So then I have to go 5 minutes down the road to 7-Eleven and then get a Dr. Pepper from there. If I texted myself 5 days ago and said, hey, Royal Farms is shit. Never give them business again. They don't carry Dr. Pepper any longer. Go to 7-Eleven, but in a condensed form because those characters wouldn't fit. Then I wouldn't waste that time of going to Royal Farms.
I honestly, if I was going to go with the same kind of example as you, I might text myself from like 4 or 5 days ago and say, hey, Wegmans doesn't have cold brew coffee right now.
Yeah.
Go get your cold brew somewhere else. Then, maybe my mornings for the next 4 days after that would have started a little bit happier.
Yeah. Or, like, see, in my example, I think...
Charge for your Fitbit.
Oh, that's a good one.
I know, I wore my Fitbit yesterday, and it was...
Nothing?
And I was like, I wonder how many steps. Dead.
Yeah.
It's like, charge my Fitbit.
But I'm like, man, if I didn't spend those 5 minutes going to a different store, what could I have done? Those 5 minutes could have made so much difference. Mm-hmm. Interesting. All right, do you have anything?
Yeah, I would go back and tell ourselves that we have termites.
Oh.
Or had, because now they're gone, but I would have warned us that we had them.
How would that have affected anything, though?
Surprise really throws me off. I wouldn't have been surprised.
Would you have said, like, oh, a termite swarm is going to, like, arrive in your house? Like, or would you say, like,
God, that's so unbelievable, though.
Yeah, but, like, how would you actually change anything there, right?
See, what I would change is my mindset and how much the surprise of having swarming termites all over your dining room would cause to the rest of my day and my mental health. I think that I would have... it would have relieved me a bit to not have the unknowingness and the surprise, and that I would have been mentally prepared to handle fighting off a swarm of termites.
So maybe, like, take a deep breath before you walk downstairs.
Yeah.
Like, or walk downstairs together.
Yes.
Be ready.
As a team.
Yeah.
Confront the dining room as a team.
Yeah. Maybe I'd go back and tell myself, like, maybe to eat more vegetables. I don't know.
I mean, you can always eat more vegetables.
It might change my
That could
child's
honestly
gender.
change a lot.
Yeah.
That could change. We don't know what that could change.
Yeah. I love this show so much. I think the humor is right on for me. Like, it's perfect.
I think my favorite part is like the perverted element of the humor.
Yeah.
And how often they say that word. I think there's just something about it that's just kind of, I think it fits with a more mature audience because it's not necessarily like overly sexual or overly perverted. It's almost just this very funny, like, nudge.
Well, I get very uncomfortable with like perverted things and perverted humor too, like in anime, which happens like a decent amount in some animes that I've watched before the channel, you know? And I'm always like, oh my god, what? But in this case, it's like it's genuinely funny by the means of how they're doing it.
Yes, it's all just friendly, good-natured, funny jokes. It's kind of reminds me of The Office a little bit.
It's like I don't know the characters too well, but part of me doesn't believe at all Daru is actually getting such a satisfaction out of it that is making him say these things. Part of me is thinking that he's saying them because he thinks that they're perverted and fun to say.
Come on. No one wastes the opportunity to say that's what she said if they can.
Who said what?
No, I'm just saying, like, if you heard someone say something and it was just, and you would never waste the opportunity to say, that's what she said. One would ever.
What did she say?
She said nothing.
Yeah. That's all I have. Do you have anything?
No.
Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and we hope to see you next time.
That's what she said. Hi, I'm Anna.
And I'm Ben.
We are AutoSave. Welcome to our channel.
Today we are watching Steins Gate, Season 1, Episode 9. Last episode, sadly, some of our recording was interrupted, corrupted, and yeah, that sucks. But we got to keep all of our discussion, which is great, a good surprise for us. And now we are back with Episode 9. I am excited. The last we left off was that Kiyoma realized that the world line that they were in has changed. And we don't think it was due to Ruka's gender changing. We don't know what it is. We have no idea. Moeka's still not here. Maybe something with her?
Right, we tried to kind of figure out what could possibly that text message, that pager message, change for Ruka's mom that could have changed the world line. Honestly, it's kind of hard to figure out what it would be. I can't even begin to guess. I don't believe I could.
How much can vegetables really change? Maybe Ruka's family's like extremely well off now because they've like delved into the vegetable
vegetables.
Market.
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe they got so creeped out by getting a pager message from an unknown person, knowing that they were going to have a baby, that they moved and Ruka is visiting right now.
Maybe. I don't know.
I don't know. All I know is I got my favorite catchphrase last episode.
You did.
Cute is justice.
Yep. And it is.
It is.
It is. You've said that like 9 times in the past 3 days.
It's a good reminder to remind yourself every single day.
Yeah. Cute is justice.
Mm-hmm.
Ready?
Yeah.
Sweet.
でもフェイリスタンとの勝負の結果は改変できなかったそれはお前自身の問題だ改良すれば本物のタイムマシンが完成盗み聞きか
フェイリスはご注文をお持ちしただけにゃそんな今日まには全部入れちゃうにゃ
出たヒギ目を見て混ぜ混ぜ羨ましそうか
タイムマシンって何のことかにゃ
そんな色仕掛けで機密事項をもら
Yes. Yes.
Oh no.
And by we, I mean mostly me.
Dara doesn't last long.
Ferris is going to want to send the next email.
Yeah. If I could send a text message now, in hindsight, it would be to change SD cards before last recording. Then we'd be in a different world line.
But you'd have to make it pretty short and sweet.
Yeah.
Like SD card camera corrupted.
Yeah.
I think this grows on me every time I watch it and hear it.
Okay,
It's like it
so
hits. It starts to hit.
if I did send a text to myself, like, you know, how the show's premise works, I think I'd be, like, stubborn. Like, I'd be like, no!
It's a perfectly good SD card.
Fuck you, I don't believe you. I'd be like, oh, you told me SD card is no good? Maybe you're trying to get me to switch to an SD card that is actually no good. You know, like paranoid.
It's like you don't trust yourself.
Yeah, Diet Ocarine. Chaos Theory Home. That was last episode's title, right?
He's still thinking about Ruka's situation.
どうしてそういう風に取るの？私はただ
Good shot.
なんだ
別に泣いてなんてないから。
まだ目が赤いぞ
Aww.
違う。これは目にゴミが。
お前は少
Dad?
ドラマか
だから追求しないこと。わかった。
別に追求するとは一言も言ってないう
るさい。
Hugging it always makes you feel better.
これだけは言っておくお前は大切な仲間だ相談にはいつでも乗る
Oh. Oh, tear stains.
計画通りコロリと罠にはまって的にこき使えるという
I love his self-destructive tendencies. I relate.
おい。お昼ご飯を買ってきてって。
Ferris will take it.
マユシーは見たことあるにゃタイムマシン。ああ、電話レンジさんバチバチって雷みたいのがこうビリビリってあんまりああいうことしてほしくないんだけどな、なんかオカリンが遠くに行っちゃう感じがするのです。
And he was worried about her and getting her involved.
今日登校日だったんだ。
学校の制服完成度的だそれは今日の議題を聞いてからにしてもらおう
Alright.
ズバリ物理的タイムトラベルだ
まゆり、麦茶冷蔵庫にまだある？
機関によるラモ内の切り崩し工作が始まったようだならなぜこの素晴らしい議題を華麗にスルーするのだ
無理に決まっているからでしょ。
メールは過去に送られているのだ
送れるのは36バイトプラスアルファ、6文字かける3通。それ以上は無理。ゲルオカリンになってもよければ。ゲルオカリンか。
痛すぎ
Jelly Ocarine.
的タイムトラベルの難しさはセルンの実験が証明している。
We know how those experiments ended.
Unless you could somehow like zip it, right? Condense the amount of information.
セルンはブラックホールとリフターの力でタイムトラベルを可能にしようとしている。なのにリフターに相当するものはレンジの中にはない。まだこれを過去にメールが送れるマシンとは言えないわ。今あるものの解明が先よ。
つまらん
Boring. 99.9 of science is boring.
Important distinction.
And it's always chaos and destruction. That's always fun.
貴様まさか
うるさい。それ以上言うな。そんなわけないから。早く話を進めなさいよ。
もとい狙うよ
違うって言ってんだろ。
の割には ID 真っ赤に
してない。特に報告することはないわ。
そうか
Kind of makes sense.
狙うよ
狙って言うな。
次にダール状況は変わらないと思われ相席はそれができれば言うことなしなんだがどういうことだどういうことどうやってやるん IBN
Ruka's family doesn't have the IBN 5100 in this time. Oh my god. No
Maybe they
wonder
do
Moika hasn't
move.
come back.
Maybe they don't run the shrine.
IBN 5100を見つけていないのか
もしかしても何もどこにあるかも分かってないじゃない。なるほどね。
But what?
仮にその話を信じるとしたら D メールによる過去改変ね。
しかし送った内容は些細なものばかりだぞ
バタフライエフェクトよ。過去に一つのメールを送ることでそこから世界線は分岐する。ロト6を買わなかった世界から買った世界へ。それによって
Oh my god.
Changes what was meant to happen.
一つの変化は玉突きのように次の
It's a snowball.
昔からよく言われている過去改変のリスクの一つよ。
Long.
では IBN5100 はどこに
逆に聞く。どこにあったの？お父さんに聞いたら
Interesting.
奉納されているというのですが。
柳林神社に IBN5100
That's some confirmation so you look less crazy, right?
でも神社にパソコンを奉納するなんて不思議だね。誰がそんなことしたんだろう。過去に戻って一つだけやり直せるとしたら何をしますか？
That's on topic.
フェイリスちゃんは何する？過去は振り返らないにゃ。前を向いて歩いていくのがみんなに幸せを届ける猫耳メイドの使命や。今日もにゃパソコン
それはさっき言ってたタイムマシンと何か関係があるにゃ。ウーパメタルウーパだよ。
やはりメタルウーパが欲しいのか。
Still?
何分か
Oh, of course she's gonna feel distance between them.
お待たせしました。この巡り合いまさにフェイリスタンの自宅と聞いたら突せざるを得ないだろう上皇。
マユシーだって遊び行きたいよ。 IBN5100。
Moika.
Yeah.
待て、おい。
Say her name.
おいか、キリュウおいか。
FB.
Ferris?
さっき IBN5100 と。
知ってるの？どこにあるのか。
お前も知らないのか。
おかえり。あ、萌香さん。
お前より、お前シャイニングフィンガーのことを知っ
So we know Moeka in this
知ってる。
line.
なぜだ、なぜ知ってる。
オカリンが連れてきたよ。
萌香の存在はみんなの記憶から消えた。
And then this is fucking crazy, dude.
They knew her again.
メールによる過去改変が起きるたびに事実が少しずつ変化しているのか。
God, I'm loving the show.
How could you not keep a diary?
It would change.
Well, not if he keeps it on his person and he wrote it.
It
I don't know.
might.
It might.
一番上みたい。
Keep it in your phone, maybe, but
お嬢様はもう間もなく参ります。
okay.
お待ちください。
Wow, Ferris makes a lot as the best cat maid ever.
趣味じゃないのだが。
本物だよ。
いい眺めだ。
オカリン。
言うと思った。今度はフェイリスタンの私服なんたる行幸。はあはあはあ。フェイリスニャンニャン。どうやらお前の正体を。
Taru!
フェイリスの家はここら辺の大地主だったんだにゃ。もしかして秋葉って秋春美穂ちゃんって言うんだよ。
聞こえない。
The illusion! The illusion!
ちなみに秋葉に萌え文化を取り入れるようにお願いしたのはフェイリスなのにゃ。
Cool.
そして自らも天使としてメイクインで萌え文化の浸透に努めているなんて。
It's a woman of culture.
みんなも今まで通りフェイリスラブで接してほしいにゃ。
接します全力で。
ありがとにゃんにゃ。
ニャンニャンでもない。
The voice acting's so good.
でもその前に簡単なお願いがあるんだけど。
Let her send a D mail.
ただ一度だけ D メールを使わせてほしい
Oh
だけ。
God.
お安いご用だお。一度と言わず何度で。待て。
フェリスちゃんもラボラトリー
We have so many lab
I
members.
know. So popular.
D メールを送るのは。
What Carisi think?
ロト6当てようとしてメール出しておいて。しかしここでやめたところで IBN5100 が戻ってくる星。
Can you stop now? Get to a world line where you have the IBN again.
お前は今日からラボメンナンバー007秋川ルミ。メールの内容は。
それは秘密だにゃ。乙女のプライベートは男子禁制にゃ。人のメール見るのは良くないと思います。
激しく同意。仕方ないが。
Then
This is
how do we know it
dangerous.
changed?
Yeah.
俺だ。そちらの状況を伝える。あの女切りやがった。そりゃ切られるっしょ。クリスっていう名前。
なんだおかしい。かと思った。
こちらの番号は表示されていただろう。
それでもいきなりあんなこと言われたら気味悪くなって切るわよ。
それはつまりこの不王を隠居魔にイフを覚えているだ。
Hang on.
ハロー。
聞けザゾーン。
The zombie apocalypse!
私岡部倫太郎と申しますが、電話で先ほどお送りさせていただいたお起動していただきたく思うのですが。
最初からそう言えばいいのよ。それと敬語変だから。
I love Carisi so much.
仲が悪いのかにゃ。多分いいんじゃないかな。
ユシに同意。
やっぱりメールはしなくても。
Oh gosh.
But we don't even know what she's gonna say, so how do we know if it changed?
Still in the building.
あなたはパパ
今日また話していたのかにゃ
Did her dad die?
では私
And she...
Or just he doesn't work as much. Instead of a butler, a dad's there, you know?
Uh-huh.
フェリスさんの父君を名乗るだけはある
She did something to keep her dad around.
残念ですがもうずいぶん前に手放してしまいまして柳林神社に奉納されたとか神社いえそのようなことは IBN5100 は神社に奉納された後消えた今度はそもそも奉納されていない
Yeah.
メールを送るたびに何かが少しずつ変わっていく
Look at how
俺の
his
知らないところ
brow...
でも何かが変わっているのかもしれないもしかしたら俺たちはもう
おかりおかりアイソードの同人誌会に中野に夜まで帰ります虎の穴こっちの方にもあればいいのにな
何を
They didn't bring
虎の穴ならそこに
the moe?
秋葉にあるわけないっしょ
The culture!
Yeah. What a shot.
His surroundings have completely changed.
Damn.
How
Okay.
are... Okay, sorry. How are we still friends with Ferris then? Does she still work
Yeah, good question.
there? Okay.
Okay, that was Steins Gate, Season 1, Episode 9. Oh my god.
How are we still friends with Ferris?
We don't know if the cafe is not there anymore, you know?
It could be that it was still something she wanted to do, but not, she didn't end up doing it to the scale that she did, and so she still takes a job there. She's still wearing the cat ears.
Yeah.
So, she still was something to do with culture and who she is in the Last World line, but not to the extent.
It just seems like she regrets the decision of bringing that culture to this. See, okay, I can't decide if the text was changing the decision to bring that culture with her here and, like, influence it, or whatever her decision was led to that culture not being influenced. Like, did her decision affect her family's ownership and influence, which then caused like everything to change, or did she go like more directly at that change?
Her doing this and living in this area, maybe her dad wanted to go somewhere else for his more specific business opportunities and left her in charge of it because it was kind of her brainchild.
Yeah.
And then now that it didn't happen, he could stay and...
What an episode, man.
See, I was immediately like, did she make it so her dad, like, didn't get on a plane that crashed or something?
Yeah, I mean, that, dude, that's
my mind
totally a
went.
possibility. You know, like, we don't know anything. And we don't know anything, period. But I like that Ferris is getting more involved. My first thought was, like, is she FB? Or does she have some, like, you know... Because that's one of the only characters we know.
Does the character Ferris have a last name?
Well, oh yes, like as in like
the character.
The character, yeah.
Yes.
Maybe. I don't know. God, what an episode. We also got like a little bit of attention put on Kiyoma and Karisu's relationship and like dynamic from Daru and Mayuri at like the end of that episode too, a little bit.
There was quite a bit to do with different like relationship dynamics in this episode.
Yeah.
I would say the most heavy of it was Mayuri.
That came out of nowhere.
Okabe. Mayuri doesn't want him doing this. She said that. Obviously she kind of, I would say, goes against that a little bit at the end before the world line switched, where she's like kind of prompting this message sending for Ferris.
Yeah.
Like, come on, just let her send one. So I found that a little bit kind of contradictory to her saying that she felt like he was slipping away from her.
Just because you feel like somebody's slipping away from you doesn't mean you're not going to support them in their endeavors, though. You know, if that's what they want and that's what makes them happy, and you're going to be like a supportive friend to them.
Right, because she wants to be supportive and helpful to Ferris, too, as her friend.
Yeah.
And she knows that this is a path that Okabe's going down, so... But I find it very interesting that both of them have somewhat of this soft spot for each other, of not wanting to get each other or have each other be so involved that there's no way out or back.
It's like, I can't really speak for Mayuri, but like at least Kiyoma understands to some level the danger of time travel, right? And
more so than anyone, because he gets to keep the memories.
I think Kurisu has like the biggest understanding of how much of a risk this is. Kiyoma definitely has an understanding, but I think that understanding is growing episode by episode in like fear and understanding of how little of a change, literally a couple letters of text can change everything. And Mayuri, though, like we haven't really heard from her. Like, she might not even be worried about the time travel aspect of her, of the, you know, of what's going on. Maybe just like him acting in a certain way, or him meeting new people, and I don't know.
A personality change. Like, obviously Mayuri finds it fun to be a lab member and to be hanging out together.
Yeah.
I really liked that you were bringing up kind of Kurisu being the one that might understand the most kind of risk factor to this. And I think that it's important to bring up, like, a scientist, that she brings up that it's one of the most kind of big principal beliefs, you know, of time travel in the scientific community, of the dangers. And so there's obviously this kind of broad scientific theory that of what would be kind of the risks of it. And so she has a heavy knowledge of what that would be and how it would work. But that is so different from lived experience. To live through and like see the fear come to life of feeling like you have everything slipping away from you.
Yeah.
Have you changed something that cannot be undone? This is the 1% of science, the 0.1% or the 1.1% of science that isn't boring.
Yeah. Man. I wanted to go and like Kurisu, this episode was super interesting. It's later on want to go back to what she was saying in regards to like the 2-channer, because I thought that was funny. But right when the episode opened, after the intro, she was on the rooftop talking to somebody, saying things like, no, I don't take it that way.
And crying.
Yeah. Chaos theory, homeostasis, okay. Spreading our secrets to outsiders. Why must you take it that way? See, no, that isn't what I meant. That makes me feel like that whoever she's... Okay, so if we go back to a couple discussions ago when we were playing with the idea of Kurisu's dad potentially coming up with a time travel theory, which led her down a similar route, but less estranged, you know, of the public eye and public community, and she abides more by the facts of things and not like obscure theories that have no basis in reality. It could be Kurisu maybe filling him in, just a theory, of like what's going on and stuff, and he's like, no, don't tell them about that stuff, don't tell them this information, you know. What do you think about that?
I like the idea of involvement from her father, because it is the only person that we have any reason to believe that she'd be having a phone call with. We have never been introduced in dialogue or in seeing it visually any other character other than the current lab members that she has interaction with, or a past with, that she would give a phone call to.
Yeah.
So we have to go with Dad as being the main kind of suspect of this phone call.
I just want to clarify, like, I know Kiyoma's the one who was saying, like, spill our secrets too in regards to Ferris, but, like, it makes you wonder, like, in the chronological order of that conversation, right? Like,
is that dialogue placement almost foreshadowing?
Yeah. For Kurisu's connections that would be like on the phone that we wouldn't know, it kind of limits us to like her father or mother or like her family back or in America, you know?
Someone in America, a scientist in America, possibly. I still think that Dad is probably the biggest suspect here.
Super interesting, though.
Mm-hmm. I also found it interesting enough to kind of jot down at the beginning of this episode when we see Ferris, we're about to see Ferris, and we get a line from Okabe, internal monologue, where he's still kind of wondering if it is possible to actually make Ruka's wish come true.
Yeah.
And I find that really specific to his actual like heart and him as a person, that even though he had attempted it and it failed, he's still trying to think of how they could even make that wish that Ruka doesn't even remember making possible.
Yeah.
Ruka has, in this world line, never told Okabe that is how he feels.
Correct.
And still, as a friend, Okabe is still wishing and wondering if there was a way that he could make that D-mail, that wish change of the past come true for this friend, even though they don't even know that they've asked for it.
Yeah. God, I hope that Ruka stays a little bit involved, because I think it wasn't just her wanting to change something, or like I guess him wanting to change something, right? Mm-hmm. It was Ruka like that trust, that like step into like friendship, you know, like is that destined to happen at a different time? Is that destined to happen not at all? Does Ruka even feel that way anymore? Mm-hmm. You know, like we have no idea.
Right. And I think when we're talking about this sort of thing, we talked when we heard what Ruka wanted to do, how everything before that was kind of non-consequential, and that this was a big deal, you know? Changing how you were born, if that's even possible. And there was a hope that for Ruka it would be possible. So we had this kind of change between, possibly these little non-consequential wouldn't actually change that much, so we thought, ideas, to something that could dramatically change someone's body in their life going forward. And then something that now we have this thing where we don't even know what was asked for, and it has changed so much, like the whole surroundings. And it's so interesting that we got such a confession from Ruka, a very vulnerable thing to ask for, and then when we ask Ferris what Ferris has typed up and what Ferris wants to send, we don't get an explanation. And I find that if we had known what Ferris was going to try to ask for, it would not have been in the best interest. I have a feeling that whatever she would have asked for might not have been in the best interest of these getting the IBN, or we didn't even know what the risk would be, because in some of those other scenarios, the risk was something we didn't even...
In that moment, we needed it so that we'd get a step closer to the IBN. But going back for a second to the IBN, right? Like, obviously, the process of events that followed Ruka trying to change their gender resulted in, chronologically, the IBN not being there. Mm-hmm. That being said, we can't 100% say that that's the only reason the IBN isn't there, because it, like the butterfly effect, it's like cumulative, right? Yeah. Like it's a snowball. Like it could have been Moeka's like world line leap, mm-hmm. like paired with the vegetable world line leap that could have led to something that lost the IBN 5100 for us.
The dialogue that happened when we get that phone call, we're giving that phone call to Ruka to check, and we learn at that time that the IBN had been there but then was gone.
Yeah.
In that world line, the dialogue was change what was meant to happen.
Yeah.
And I found that phrasing very interesting.
Who said that?
It might have been Ocarine, or it wasn't. There's no narrator in this show, but it was kind of, I think it was Ocarine to himself.
Yeah.
And I definitely want to talk about Moeka too, and like Moeka's kind of even more agitated state in this episode than any of the other episodes.
Yeah.
Like she was a little bit off in some of the episodes, you know, sneaking up behind people in the dark without your phone light on.
Yeah.
To show your presence is already a little bit creepy, but there was an agitated
It was like
state.
a frustration.
Yes.
Yeah.
So are you looking for the line that I said?
I am, yeah, because it's interesting, because it definitely does, like, no one knows when it was taken or by whom. And it's crazy how much of a difference that Ferris has made, right? That, Ferris's decision has resulted in it never arriving at the shrine, correct?
You know, there's a chance of what was meant to happen. If the PC left the shrine, if it had been donated and then it left the shrine, if we remember correctly, the person that donated it to the shrine left with a cryptic message.
Correct.
Of someone coming to get it someday. Is it possible that what was meant to happen was someone else getting it and not Okabe in that line?
So I think that's a possibility, but what I'm also thinking is a possibility is that in some way, either somebody arranged it or if it was Kiyoma himself, he used the connection between Ferris and Ferris's dad to somehow leave the IBN at that shrine, and Ferris has removed that possibility altogether. Because what's the difference from the Ferris text to it not happening? The IBN has never been at the shrine. We had the dialogue from Kiyoma to her dad being like, oh yeah, do you know where this is? Do you have one? He was like, oh no, I left that world a long time ago. So couldn't you see that meaning? Okay, him leaving the world a long time ago of IBN 5100s inevitably caused the IBN 5100 to never show up at the shrine in the first place.
Wasn't the IBN... Ferris sent her text message back 10 years.
Yes.
Wasn't it 10 years ago that the IBN was left at the shrine originally?
It was, correct. I'm pretty certain.
So in that time period that changed this whole
10 years
Akiba,
ago, someone left it for him, correct.
Changed Akiba, changed Ferris's life, has her dad there. In that year, her father had either left it at the shrine or didn't.
Yeah.
Something that she changed made it so he either didn't buy one, didn't have one, didn't think to leave it, gave it to someone else.
Mm-hmm. That's crazy. That's nuts. Like, because it leads you to, like, the thought of, is Kiyoma ever going to go against his friends or Ferris like this? Because obviously she made a decision, which she hesitated about making.
She did.
And
but he almost pushed her to it because he was like, oh, we're ready, the electricity.
Unknowingly,
yes.
But it leads me to the question of, like, one, is this what actually would make her happy? You can't know because all that this Ferris has experienced is this one life.
And had the regret.
Would Kiyoma ever think this through, potentially realize that's the change, and change her life with his own hands? Being like, okay, I'm going to text Ferris's dad and tell him to do the thing that Ferris wanted to be undone. Mm-hmm. You know? It's interesting.
Or, so he could kind of do some reconnaissance in terms of, like, trying to figure out what Ferris's life was like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And
he does have that memory.
And so he could try to figure out what it would be that he could pinpoint as a catalyst that she could have influenced, and then try to either message her or message her dad. But then there's this sticky situation because you're possibly... Imagine what he would have to do then. He would then have to... His friend wanted to change something that was obviously a regret or something that hurts them, something that they think about and pains them, probably. And you're almost deciding to make that happen again to your friend. There's a layer of like, oh, that would hurt. That would be hard.
Yeah.
Because then you're almost putting your own selfish desire over it. Like the situation with Ruka. Like, if he were to learn that changing Ruka's gender would have completely made it so he couldn't get the IBN, you know? If it was Ruka in this situation instead of Ferris, there would be... And he was able to change Ruka's gender in One World Line, but then he lost the IBN.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of dilemma of, like, moral dilemma, caring dilemma, friendship dilemma, selfless versus selfish. And I feel like we're kind of could be in a territory similar to that with like undoing what Ferris has done.
But like Kiyoma says himself, like doing something that can never be undone, right? It is such a gamble every time you do something, because like, yeah, okay, eat more vegetables. That could result in the thing I want changed, but it could also result in a billion different other things that I would never want to change. With not like you lack zero control at the end of the day in regards to the like the specificity of this change, right?
Yeah. I could never do this.
You're not like going back in a book, seeing something that was written in history, erasing it and rewriting it.
No.
You're going back in the book.
That's too simple.
Yeah, you're going back in the book and being like, man, if I like cross out a letter here or like erase one letter, I hope, you know?
If I get rid of one period, make it a comma or something,
yeah,
I could just completely.
Because you're relying on not just the fact of you changing something, but other people's context and interpretation of that thing.
Like when we thought about when they had to shorten vegetables to veggies in the pager message to Ruka's mom, and we were kind of like, oh, I wonder if just even shortening it to veggies would almost have a repercussion in itself.
Yeah.
I could honestly, the unknowingness of what would change and this what he's experiencing with these hanging on to the memories, but going into all these different world lines, it would drive me literally insane.
Yeah.
I already cannot handle like an unknowingness of like what I'm gonna eat during the day. So, and like when I'm gonna eat, like I need to eat at 1:00. Like, is that cool? Yes. Okay. So I would go insane if I was in Okabe's situation.
Yeah. Like I'm like, it's crazy. Like, okay. So like if the veggie thing, right?
Yeah.
If there was a similar text that was sent to like my grandmother or my mom about how the letter H is pronounced, that would change forever how I would pronounce the letter H because I was taught a certain way to do it by my parents.
I love when you say it. I love it.
It's like and it wouldn't be that context, right? It'd be like I would try to like shorten words to try to get something across, like like you need to go home, but I would like I don't know, I'd rearrange it, but it could have such a trajectory that I could never in a billion years see coming.
Right.
It's terrifying, dude. I don't like. It would take a mad scientist to do this shit.
In terms of writing, I would say that the mangaka definitely had a lot of room for creativity and fun with this whole concept. This fact that no one can actually predict what would actually change. So you would never run into that thing where the reader or the viewer is like, oh, this is the thing that's going to change. And then you didn't do that. And then they're like, but that's what should have changed. No, like even the mangaka got to be completely creative and just completely crazy sometimes on